Hello, everyone. Welcome to Speech Language Hearing Sciences 3304 in spring semester 2022 at University of Minnesota Twin Cities. This is the narrated version of your syllabus, which is going to form part of the class that the online asynchronous class that you will do on Tuesday, January 18th per my email to you through Canvas. So just a reminder that we're not meeting in person. Or synchronously meeting, we're not meeting at the assigned class time on that day. So here I am on Zoom, and I will share my screen and we'll go through the syllabus first. And then in a separate recording, I'll walk through some of the notes for the beginning part of the class so that we can have a full 75 minutes of content. All right, so here we are in the syllabus. This is just the PDF of the syllabus that is already available for you Canvas. So here we are in 3304 Phonetics. I'm your instructor. I'm Benjamin Munson, Ben Munson. I use the title MX, pronounced mix. So I use the gender and power neutral title mix rather than the other titles that you might be used to using with some of your other instructors. This class meets Tuesday, Thursday, 9:45 to 11 in 35 Nicholson Hall. There are no prerequisites. The class will meet in person, and it's a nice big room. There are about twice as many seats as there are people registered for the class, so there's room to spread out, probably not to meet a social distancing requirement of 6 feet as was operational in the early part of this pandemic, but enough that you will not have to sit right next to someone. Now, while I'm teaching in person, the classes are also going to be simulcast on Zoom. That means I'm going to be standing up at the podium, doing a Zoom meeting, much like I'm doing right now, in front of a class. And the idea there is that students who aren't able to attend class, perhaps because they are in a mandatory quarantine, who aren't feeling well, whose cars have broken down, whatever, whose kids had to stay home from school and are unable to travel to the university, can participate in class in real time. Those Zoom presentations will also be recorded, and the recordings will be posted on the Canvas website so that people who are unable to be in class or participate simultaneously on Zoom from another location can access the recording. Now, those of you who are in the room can also log on to Zoom. So I will give the Zoom link and you can log on to it. Mute yourself, because if you don't mute yourself, there's going to be a horrible echo. But one of the benefits to logging on via Zoom is that you can actually, we'll have a chat going and you can ask a question through the chat. The Zoom recording will also be projected onto the screen in the room, so you can't ask a question fully anonymously, but you can ask a question without having to raise your hand. I'm looking into ways that I could also have students ask questions anonymously during class. So what might end up happening is that there's an app and I get my phone out during class and you can use the app to ask a question anonymously. But for now, you can just ask questions through text in the Zoom chat, rather than asking them aloud. You're, of course, invited to ask them aloud as well, if that's what you like. The other reason to bring a laptop or a tablet and log on to Zoom during class is that there will be a lot of opportunity to interact in this class. We will be doing phonetic transcription, and we can use the whiteboard feature, and you can sit in your seats and participate anonymously, that's fully anonymously, in doing a transcription exercise. And that was something that was new during the pandemic. Obviously it was not something that I did before the pandemic, and it was something that I think really added to the class. So that's the modality of the class. In person, simulcast online, and even people in person can also participate online, and there are benefits to doing so. I am housed in Shevlin Hall on the Twin Cities campus, on the east bank of the Twin Cities campus. But that's kind of irrelevant because where I'm housed most of all is either in 35 Nicholson, which is where you will see me, or online. My office hours are on the first page of the syllabus. Office hours are times when students can come to my Zoom office and ask questions, share ideas, test understanding, and collaboratively problem solve. Now, in the current public health environment and based on my own health status, I do not feel comfortable having people come to my office. So all of the student meetings this semester, all of them, office hours and otherwise, will take place on Zoom. I offer two kinds of office hours, a drop-in hour on Mondays and by appointment on Tuesdays. For the Monday office hours, there will be a link in my Google Calendar, so calendar.google.com. And you can just pop into the room. I'll just be sitting here sort of not necessarily twiddling my thumbs. In fact, probably most of the hour we'll have at least one student there all of the time. But I'll be there waiting for you to pop in and ask questions or test your understanding, et cetera, et cetera. I have set aside an hour on Tuesdays, so this will be shortly after class ends. And what we have in that, for that office hour is I've got 10-minute slots, and you sign up for one or more 10-minute slots. And that's a way to ensure that you're going to have my undivided attention. So if there's something you need to talk about privately, the Tuesday office hour is a better idea, because in the Monday office hour, it's like you don't know who else is going to be in the room. I'm sorry, I have it as 15-minute meetings. I'll go over how to schedule meetings in class, probably in Thursday the 20th. And of course, you know, those aren't the only times that I'm available. They're just the times that I've set aside for this. And those times might not work for you. If you need to talk and those times don't work, we'll work together to find a time. We have a 10-hour-a-week teaching assistant for this course, Greta Dombrowski. Greta's office hours are not yet scheduled because she doesn't have her clinic schedule yet. Greta is a master's student in the speech-language pathology graduate program. Once she has those scheduled, we'll update the syllabus on Canvas, and she'll tell you the modality of her office hours. Greta is also an alumna of this class. She took it in spring of 2020 when we first pivoted to online. And, you know, she's someone who I think really understands very much where you're coming from and the challenges that you're facing. And so not only is she a teaching assistant, she's also someone who I think can be a coach, which is ideally what all instructors should be as well. We have a PhD student in our department, Liz Ansell, who is going to be doing what we call a curricular teaching rotation in this course. Curricular teaching rotations are requirements for our PhD students where they partner with instructors and sort of, how do I say this? They plan and deliver a couple of modules within a course under an instructor's guidance. So that's probably a little fancier than you needed, but Liz will be here and has an email address. And Liz is a clinical speech-language pathologist. She has a master's from Purdue University and a couple of years experience working in school systems. She'll have some content to teach to you, but again, she'll also be a sort of point person for you. Now, before we go to the content of this course, let's talk about the #1 issue in this and every other course, access and inclusion. Nothing that we do in this course is worthwhile if each individual in this course, students and instructors alike, did not have their basic needs met. Central to this is making sure that we can access this course. So there is in the Courier font on this slide is language taken from Lydia X.Z. Brown's syllabus language website. Lydia X.Z. Brown is at Tufts University. And I encourage you to read through this because it might be a little bit different from things that you've seen in other classes. I want everything to be accessible to everyone, including to me and Greta and Liz. I want to make sure that this course is accessible to us all because that's the most basic need that we have to have met. Now, I will say aloud a couple of the last 2 paragraphs here. If you have any access needs that I can better support by changing any aspect of my teaching, including class discussions, and here I'm taking that directly from Brown's website. I get the sense that Brown teaches smaller classes than the 65 person class we're in, or the way that I handled assignments or readings. You're welcome and encouraged to let me know in public or in private how I can better support your access needs. Just as I'll let you know how we can all better support our access needs, mine included as well. Disabled students / students with disabilities and faculty and staff with disabilities may also formally register with the office responsible for disabled student support services, which at the University of Minnesota is the Disabilities Resource Center, and especially the student access page. This is a hyperlink that you can click to. This is the official process for receiving reasonable accommodations in the classroom per the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. But you need not have a specific reason or diagnosis to talk to me about your access needs. Everybody deserves to learn in a way that makes the most sense for them at any point in time. Okay, so what is this course that we want to be accessible and inclusive? Well, broadly speaking, phonetics is the science of speech production. This course is a space that supports students, building students' knowledge and skills. The skill objective of this course is to facilitate students' ability to phonetically transcribe the speech of adults and children with and without identified speech, language, or hearing disorders. The knowledge goals are to be able to describe differences among individuals talkers, including those that arise as a consequence of acquisition, that arise because of interactions among different languages a person speaks, that arise because of speech, language, or hearing disorders, and arise when people exercise social agency to convey aspects of their personal identity through the way that they speak. I also want to facilitate in you knowledge that will allow you to use phonetic transcription to characterize phonetic diversity among the world's languages and to understand the social and cultural bases of variation in the way we speak, as well as the socio-political consequences of speaking different ways. Phonetic transcription will be taught in practice primarily using English, the language of instruction and the common language of the people in the room, with some additional practice given in other widely spoken languages and languages spoken among all of you. Students engage in extensive practice transcribing both adults in speech and transcribing individuals with and without speech, language, and hearing disorders. Now, a very important, so if I said that teaching with access and inclusion is a goal of ours, let's talk about the epistemological basis of this course. So every course at this university is grounded in a body of scholarship and a conceptual framework. The conceptual framework for courses in phonetics reflect the power and privilege of different groups in society. This course uses instructional materials that were developed in the context of academia, an institution that is systemically racist, classist, sexist, cisnormative, and heteronormative, among others. I should say ableist in here as well. It also occurs in the discipline of speech, language, hearing sciences, which itself is overwhelmingly white. Systemic racism is amply evident in this course. Though it is not explicitly stated in the course materials, the description of English in this course is based on white varieties of English, those spoken by white people in white-dominated and white-controlled spaces. Continuing an effort that I began in spring of 2020, this course aspires to break this by decolonizing phonetics pedagogy. In this course, that effort includes the following activities. So first of all, beginning the course in the very first set of slides with discussions of linguistic justice and injustice and linguistic variation, rather than relegating them to the end of class, sort of tacked on, the week 13 approach to inclusion that is so sadly evident in so many courses. Second, regularly emphasizing that the generalizations about language that are made in phonetics textbooks, including the Ladefoged and Johnson textbook that is used in this course, are based on varieties of language spoken by people who are not representative of humanity as a whole. The people who are there writing the textbooks and talking about themselves because of social privilege and positional power. Intentionally incorporating scholarship by BIPOC phonetics researchers and on racialized varieties of language, as well as queer phonetics researchers and gendered varieties of language, I might say, with a queer phonetics researcher being at the front of the room in this very course. Regularly soliciting anonymous confidential feedback from students on the climate in this class as it surrounds issues related to racial justice and social justice more broadly. Not expecting marginalized students, including queer students, disabled students, trans students, BIPOC students, among others, in the class to do a disproportionate amount of both emotional and scholarly labor during classroom discussions on issues related to race, gender, social justice, and phonetic variation. Acknowledging that, one course that has been working on this for 2 years is, isn't going to solve all these problems, that this is a journey. It's the work that we're doing in this course represents about one step on this long journey. And of course, acknowledging that marginalization occurs along other dimensions. And, given that what marginalization is, there are probably dimensions that are not even here because that's what marginalization is. But ability, gender, sexuality, caste, income, etc. And that full decolonization needs to address all of those dimensions. So I'm just repeating here in the course overview what we've said before, the 6 goals that we want to achieve in this course. And here, a course doesn't do anything. A course facilitates things. So I want this course to be a structured and supportive environment where you can grow as much as possible in these 6 skills that are listed on the slide here. Now, many folks in speech language hearing sciences, which comprises about 80% of the students in the room, hope to someday be clinical speech language pathologists or audiologists. And if so, please keep this syllabus and even keep the course materials, because if you do end up in a graduate program in audiology or speech language pathology, one of the tasks that you're going to be asked to do is to track your attainment of different knowledge and skills. It's one of the reasons why I use the term knowledge and skills. And this syllabus and the materials in this course are tangible evidence of knowledge and skills development, or at least aspirations for knowledge and skills development. This is a 3-credit course, and we're going to be meeting for about 3 hours in person. Just a reminder here that the University of Minnesota would say that you should try and bank on about 6 hours outside of class each week. That's going to be a lot of different, that's going to be taken up by a lot of different things. And, you know, I include in those 6 hours, not just sitting down at a computer and reading or something like that, but anytime you engage with this material. So the class will be divided into synchronous and asynchronous activities. We aspire to follow a flipped format where I'm going to try as much as possible to do the lectures, what I like to call didactic, that's a great word, the didactic material, the lecturing and content presentation in recordings like this, so that when we're together in person, we can do interactive activities. We can do activities together, and it's one of the reasons why simulcasting on Zoom is so important, because it allows that to be done anonymously, as well as clarification of content and probably some going through notes as well. There will also be homework assignments, as will be seen in a few pages. Although this is not an online course, I've included here some of the language that I was mandated to include in syllabi for online courses that I taught during the pandemic, because it's also relevant here. The primary texts for this course are threefold. So the first is simply my PowerPoint notes. I have been teaching phonetics for 24 years, right? My first time teaching phonetics alone, not as a teaching assistant like Greta or a graduate instructor like Liz. My first time teaching phonetics alone was spring of 1998. Holy moly. It seems like just yesterday, but it was 24 years ago. And over those 24 years, and probably about 15, 16 iterations of teaching phonetics, I have developed a set of PowerPoint slides that I'm pretty happy with. The second is A Course in Phonetics, which is a textbook written by Peter Ladefoged, who has passed away, and Keith Johnson. The ebook version of this is integrated onto our Canvas site. And in another set of emails, you will have been given the choice to either accept the ebook and utilize it through Canvas, or not accept it and either go without a textbook, which is not recommended, or buy the textbook, which is kind of pricey. I like the ebook option because it's the most economical option, and I simply like having it integrated into the Canvas website. After this course is over, if you choose the ebook, you won't have access to it indefinitely, but you will have access to the PowerPoint slides. So it's kind of a, your choice. I also have a set of optional readings, and a lot of those optional readings were chosen as part of my kind of decolonization efforts. Students often ask, remember, I've been teaching for 24 years now, students often ask whether they should do the readings before the class in which we discuss them or not. Frankly, this is a matter of access, my friends. You know your own style and preference far better than I do. Some people would rather read a text before a lecture in which it is discussed so that they can be primed to think about the topic when it's discussed in class. Other folks would rather read it afterwards and have it reinforce things that were first presented in class. I have no expectations, and this course will work equally well for people of those two different styles. All right, what about the grading? Well, grading is a big area where we think a lot about access, right? So how can we come up with grading procedures that are inclusive and accessible? 20% of your course grade will be based on 4 homework assignments, each of which is worth 5% of your final grade, and each of which is scored on a 4-point scale. Each assignment will involve, missing space there, each assignment will involve phonetically transcribing a set of words, which is part of the skill objective of this course, and answering a single short answer question about phonetics. So we will discuss the assignment process during class when the first assignment is released, but broadly speaking, it will look like this. Before you begin each assignment, so when you get the assignment PDF and you read it over, you're going to choose how much of the assignment you want to complete. And that alone will determine your grade. So we will say, if you want to get a 1 out of 4, do this much work. If you want to get a 2 out of 4, do this much work. A 3 out of 4, do this much work. A 4 out of 4, do this much work. You choose how much work you want to put into the assignment, and your choice of how much work you want to do determines your grade entirely. Now, the assignments are self-graded. Once you complete the assignment and submit it on Canvas, you will get a key to the assignment that will contain things like the correct transcription of the words and a guide to the essential elements of the open-ended question. You will use this key to assess your knowledge and skills. You'll be able to see where you made mistakes so that you can form a plan for improving your performance over the course of the semester. Again, the grading for the homework will be based entirely on how much of the assignment you chose to complete, as described in step 1 and 2. It will not be based on how accurately you're transcribed or answered the questions. This process is referred to as contract grading or ungrading. And there's a link here, that's another hyperlink in the PDF document, to something that will tell you what ungrading means. Now, that doesn't mean that you're flying completely solo here. Greta will check the assignments, but she'll only check that to make sure that you're accurately grading yourself. So she will check that for the completion of different modules, not to assess your progress. As you will see, one module on each of the assignments is for you to describe your performance on the assignment, to devise a plan for improvement, and to come up with a set of questions that will help you implement your improvement plan. This will ensure that you stay highly engaged during your learning journey. This next part probably should have been point 5, but it is in bold to emphasize that you may opt not to do one of the assignments and just give yourself full credit for it. Okay, we recommend you do all 4 of the assignments because they reinforce and build your skills, but we also know that it's a very uncertain time. I mean, life is uncertain, pandemic or not. And at some point in the semester, you just might say, man, do I need to push something off of my plate? Congratulations. You may opt to give yourself full credit for one of the assignments and just say, I'm taking my mulligan, to use a term from golf. I think it's golf. I only ever played mini golf. So while we do recommend that you do all 4 assignments, we think it's more important for you to have flexibility than to mandate that all 4 assignments can be completed. Regardless of what you choose, we strongly recommend that you do all 4 of the assignments in sequence as this course is cumulative. And so you'll see as we move on in the syllabus, there's considerable flexibility in the due date for these assignments. Well, hey, what am I talking about? Here it is. Each homework assignment has a suggested submission date and a final submission date. These are listed on the course schedule. The suggested submission date is the date on which Greta will begin to spot check the assignments and enter the grades into Canvas. The final due date is the date by which the assignments must be submitted to receive credit. We're really flexible there. If you need another day or 2, just ask, right? Mainly, we're putting these final due dates in there to try and get you to really think about doing the assignments in sequence and not to leave them too late in the semester. So if I can go meta for a section here. Last spring, I allowed people to wait until the end of the semester to do all of the assignments. Probably about 20% of the class did. And those people, when they got to the end and they went back and did the assignments all together, they didn't always do them in sequence. In fact, they often did them in reverse sequence. And the earlier assignments that were assigned based on material early in the semester ended up being kind of confusing for them because they thought, wait a second, this is, stuff we learned later in the semester, obviates this. So we really, if it turns out that something catastrophic happens in your life and you need quite a few extensions, we'll grant them. But we want to encourage you to try and plan on sequencing the assignments as we have sequenced them, so that it reinforces the material as best as possible. Okay, so I'm flipping ahead too fast here. Written exams. 60% of your course grade will be based on 3 examinations. These provide you with the opportunity to demonstrate your attainment of those first 5 learner goals a few pages ago. Each of these exams is given over Canvas. They are open book and open note, but they are not collaborative. You may not contact a classmate or anyone else like a tutor, for example. We follow the honor system for adherence to this. And if you choose to cheat, then may it weigh on your soul, as it should. But we are not in the business of policing. So we are not going to use Proctorio or any proctoring software. And I feel like I just skipped, yeah. So here's the deal. We're not going to say this exam needs to be done on this date at this time. Instead, exams are going to be open for a 5-day span. During that span, you can start the exam whenever you want. And as soon as you start the exam, a 4-hour clock begins to tick. So you have a 4-hour window to take your exam. Now, the exams are designed to take an hour. So a 4-hour window is generous, meaning that it allows for a number of contingencies, internet outages, disruptions in the test-taking environment, transient headaches, or just doing all of the questions and then going off and eating a nice lunch and coming back and checking your answers, right? This is important for a lot of things. First of all, it means that we can write exams that really test knowledge integration rather than memorization. It also means that, you know, it means that we're not taking up class time to give exams. Now, there are 3 exams and they're worth 60% of your grade, but they're not divided up evenly. Instead, at the end of the semester, we're going to look at your 3 exam grades. We're going to take your lowest exam grade and say, okay, that's your lowest score. It should count least to your final grade, and it'll be worth 15% of your final grade. Then we'll say, okay, that exam was your highest exam. That should count the most in your final grade. So that should count 25%, and then the other one counts for 20%. The windows on which the exams are open are listed here. Do note that the last exam is going to be given during the finals period, and it actually overlaps with the scheduled exam time for this course. So if you're a real stickler for following university schedules, then you can do the exam during its assigned time, which is sometime on Monday the 9th, or whatever the 9th is. Now, all right, so we talked about 4 homeworks, and they're not huge long homeworks. 4 homeworks, 3 exams, 2 more things. So there are 9 graded elements in this course, and the last 2 are transcription quizzes. These are going to give you the opportunity to demonstrate your attainment of phonetic transcription skill. They're also going to be available online, and there's going to be one of them that's given in, you know, around open on St. Patrick's Day. So there's one that's given in sort of mid to late March, and that's worth 5% of your grade. That's really kind of a reality check for you if you've been maybe less engaged with the first couple of homework assignments and you see that you got a 60 on that transcription quiz, then that's a good prompt for you to go back and shore up those skills. It's also sort of less punitive because it's only worth 5% of your grade. And then the final transcription quiz is worth 15% of your final grade. And yep, I've got the dates listed there as well. And they're in the schedule that's coming up in the last couple of pages. So we will not do a curve on any of the transcription exams or written exams. But you know, we think that this is justified by the many sort of accessibility features that are built in, as well as by the fact that we don't, where did I put, where's mine? All right, people are gonna get car sick if I keep scrolling through here. All right, so we also think that it's justified given that we have a different way of mapping numbers onto letters than the default in Canvas. So in order to get a C- in this course, for example, you need to get just a 68 rather than I think it's a 70 in Canvas. So if you look over our scale here, this grade scale shows that, you know, we think it's that, well, I have more, let me finish here and then I'll go back to the grade scale. All right, so there will be no extra credit opportunities for this class after the final exam. So extra credit opportunities are actually going to be built into every single one of the exams, but there's not going to be any additional assignments to complete at the end of the semester for students who might look and say, oh, I was just 2 percentage points away from the next higher grade. Is there anything that I can do? The answer to that is going to be no. And it's going to be no, not reflecting our lack of support for students. In fact, we see that we want you to see that there is flexibility and wiggle room, for lack of a better term, in every aspect of the design of this course, including how we grade the homework assignments, how we weight the exams, and in our grade scale. The lack of extra credit opportunities reflect the fact that at the end of the semester, In fact, throughout the semester, we're committing as much as we reasonably can, given the many, many demands on our time. And simply the extra time required to create and grade additional assignments is just, it's beyond what we can reasonably commit to and still make good on the other many commitments that we have in our life. Now, this is where I had something in my original syllabus, and then I had a friend in the Center for Educational Innovation read through it, and she said, "No, don't have that on the syllabus. Just tell the students." So part of what we're trying to convey here is that this is a class in which you don't need to be a perfectionist to do well, and in fact, perfectionism is not part of the way that I live my life. I don't think it's part of the way that Greta or Liz live their lives either, although they really should be speaking for themselves. Perfectionism is not something that is attainable or desirable in a phonetics course. As you will see over the course of the semester, no one can transcribe perfectly because everybody comes to the task of transcription with their own unique hardware, their unique ears, their unique language experience, their unique social filters. And so this is a course where striving for perfection is simply not something that is going to get you anything other than frustrated, right? It's also something that is just not part of our ethos. So I will say that, if you come to me and say, well, I got a 98 on the exam, but I got a 93 on the exam, but I really wanted to get 100. I want, tell me what I need to do to improve to get those, 7 points back on the next exam. I'm happy to talk through the questions that were missed, the 7 points that were missed, and to help you see them through the lens of building knowledge and skills. But I'm happy to do that because I want to build your knowledge and skills, not because I think getting 100 is anything other than just a quixotic. So it's just it's going searching for something that doesn't exist and probably shouldn't exist. Right. If there's something that, and this is very much a part of access and inclusion. There's a very nice set of features, and it's like hidden characteristics of white supremacy culture. And one of them is an obsession with perfection, right? I mean, if we're going to decolonize this course, then, this obsession with perfection is something that really needs to go out the window. And we have made good on that by allowing you to get the highest grade in this course with lots of things still going awry. Maybe you need to throw out one assignment. Maybe, you didn't do so great on one of your exams. That's okay. It's going to be weighted less than the one that you did better on. Okay. The rest of the syllabus, or most of the rest of the syllabus, is on policies that come from the university website on policies and practices that support learners, you, and learning, the process that we hope happens in this course. So there, I encourage you to read through the bit on scholastic dishonesty, make up work for legitimate absences, keeping in mind that, teaching with access and inclusion really means that flexibility is built into this course. So I will say this line here: you do not need to justify your absences, especially when the act of doing so exacerbates the difficulty and trauma associated with the reason for this absence, right? Read that again and think what it really means here. This is not about re-traumatizing by having to sit down and tell us what happened this past weekend that meant that you missed Tuesday's class. No, no, that's a hard no. Instead, flexibility is baked into this course so that you don't have to do that. Appropriate use of class notes and course materials. Don't post your class materials on those course sharing websites. That's a big no. Don't go looking for course materials from this course on course sharing websites. So I don't know what website it is. It's one of those websites that, essentially tries to get you to share homeworks and tests. There's material on that website that is linked to this course ID, and it's not from this course. I don't know where it's from. It's not from this course. So somebody uploaded bogus information, but don't use those. No, instead build community among each other. Greta, one of the uses of a phonetics TA historically, at least the way that I have engaged phonetics TAs historically, is to hold out of class practice sessions. And Greta is an incredibly warm and gregarious human being who is always in Shevlin Hall. I won't tell you where to find her, or people are going to be crowding that room, but Greta is often around, and I think she will enjoy holding out of class practice sessions. I will encourage her to do it in whatever modality she thinks is best. If it comes to needing to find a big room so that students can engage in-person practice with social distancing, we'll try to make that happen. So a note on creating positive and respectful teaching and learning environments. Here, I just sort of say these, this syllabus outlines our expectations of you, and we have expectations of ourselves as well. And this section outlines kind of the expectations that we hold ourselves to. We've got some relevant University of Minnesota policies and practices on supporting your well-being and the campus well-being course climate and sort of life climate on the campus. So this is available many other places, but as one of your instructors, I'm kind of a representative of the university. And if something happens where you're experiencing sexual harassment, sexual assault, stalking, or relationship violence, here are some resources, and I'm happy to bring you back to these. If you need to be reminded of where these resources are, I'm happy to be a person you reach out to. The university is committed to equity, diversity, equal opportunity, and affirmative action, and there are resources listed here. Again, disability accommodations, a space I think about a lot for students and myself alike. The university views disability as an important aspect of diversity and is committed to providing equitable access and learning opportunities for all students. The DRC on campus is the office that collaborates with students who have disabilities to provide and/or arrange reasonable accommodations. The process of arranging reasonable accommodations for this course is an interactive process. So those of you who have DRC accommodations, when you share your letters with me, and please do so early in the semester, remember that what you're doing is initiating an interactive process so that together we can figure out what reasonable accommodations for this course are. So one of the reasons to be so explicit in this syllabus and in this long, probably now 45 minutes narration of it, is because I want you to listen to that, look at your accommodation letter and say, this is my opening bid. I think this would be a reasonable accommodation. For example, if you're allowed time and a half on tests, how do you interpret that given the way we're going to do tests? Does it mean that you want to get a 6-hour window instead of a 4-hour window? Or does it mean that you want to get a 7-day span that you can take the test? Does it mean both? I want you to make that opening bid so that it's truly an interactive process. Mental health and stress management, Lord knows we all need better services there, and we need to be plenty kind with ourselves and with each other where this is true, where this happens. There are resources on campus, and I'm thankful that there are, and they mean nothing if we don't access them. Academic freedom and responsibility, another one you can read through. It has some contacts here if things come up with academic freedom or academic responsibilities, including our Director of Undergraduate Studies in the department, Dr. Z Yang Zhang, our Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education, Askan Kerner, and our Vice Provost for Faculty and Academic Affairs, Rebecca Ropers. I've already told you, or I've already asked for you to please record your name in the name coach and make sure that your pronouns are available. My pronouns are he, him. My title is mix, not professor or doctor. And if that feels weird, well, it won't be the first time anyone uses that as a title. So this is a good opportunity for you to get used to using that title. All right, and here we have the course topics, and I hope that you can read through them. You can sort of put them in your planner, knowing that there's quite a bit of flexibility in the dates that things happen. Do note that I have intentionally meant there will be no homeworks that are due or released over spring break. So your homework 2 suggested due date is before spring break, and your homework 3 release date isn't until after spring break, because I want you to do nothing academic on spring break. Break means break. All right, and that's the whole syllabus. There's a lot there, but there's a lot there which I hope conveys to you that this is something that that teaching and learning is something we take exceptionally seriously. But, you know, as I said in the introductory email, it's all about F words. And, you know, F word, one of the biggest F words, the most important F word is fun, right? So, you know, I hope that this course is as much fun for you as it is for me to teach. I hope it's more fun for you than it is for me to teach. Teaching can be stressful, but, you know, it's my job, whatever. But it was, you know, when I took my first phonetics course, it just really jazzed me in a way that changed my interests and focus in life immensely. And I hope it's useful for you as well. I hope it's interesting to you as well. And if it's not necessarily interesting, I hope it's ultimately very useful for you in some capacity. Okay, and that's the end of this recording. Ta-ta for now.